G'day guys, welcome back to RinTips NRL. Let's just jump straight into how my tips from the Vegas round went. The first game of the weekend was the Cowboys versus the Knights. I tipped Cowboys. I tipped Cowboys confidently, and it did not go that way at all. The Knights simply outplayed them. Kalen Ponga proved me wrong. He went out there and he absolutely killed it. I thought he'd be stale, I thought he'd be a little bit off, but he was probably the best player on the field, which goes against everything that I thought would happen. I couldn't see them winning, and then I watched it and I was like, they're just clearly the better team. So we're 0-1 from the first game. Next game was the Dragons and the Bulldogs, and I went for the Dragons. I had an inkling they were going to get up, and I'm going to say it, they were robbed. That extra time penalty, I thought it was a loose carry. I mean, maybe I was biased because I tipped them and I wanted them to win, but any day of the week, that's a loose carry, and that's a game-changing decision. There were a lot of decisions that seemed like they went the Bulldogs' way, weren't there? Stephen Crichton not getting binned, that was a tough one to swallow. But the Dragons fought hard. I knew they'd be in the battle, but they just couldn't get across the line in the end. So Stephen Crichton kicked the field goal. He's a freak player. He's incredible. So after the first two rounds, I am 0-2, literally in last on every tipping leaderboard that there is. So hopefully this coming weekend, we have a bit more luck. First game of the weekend is the Storm versus the Eels at Amy Park in Melbourne. That's on Thursday night, and it's too hard to go past tipping the Storm in round one of the year with their record. I think they've won every round one clash since something like 2001 or something incredible, 2004. It's also in Melbourne, so I can't go against them. I'm tipping Melbourne in this one. Eels did have it to last year, but a new halves pairing might take a little while to settle in, whereas the Storm, you've got Munster, Hughes, Harry Grant in that spine. They're going to be a hard team to beat, and I can't go past them. So they're my tip for the first game of the weekend. The next game is versus the Roosters at Go Media Stadium in New Zealand. So the Warriors are at home, and you know the Warriors are going to scrap and fight, and they'll be in the contest. But just looking at the teams, the Roosters seem like they have a little bit too much class and maybe a little bit too much strength in the forwards as well. And Robinson's a great coach, and you've got Sammy Walker there. Daly Cherry Evans to play his first game. I watched him and Walker in the trials, and they seemed like they gelled pretty well, and Sammy Walker had a fantastic game, so I'm going to tip the Roosters in this one. I can definitely see the Warriors getting up, but I'm going to go for the Roosters. The third match of the weekend is also on Friday, 7 PM at Suncorp Stadium. Broncos, Panthers. This is going to be a hell of a game. Broncos are coming off a loss in the World Club Challenge. I don't really take a lot from that given the conditions they had to travel. It's your first game of the year, they hadn't had a hit out yet. But the Panthers are such a clinical team, and the fact that Cleary got off his suspension, I'm leaning towards the Panthers, I think. Broncos have a fantastic backline. Their halves and their spine's really good. If Reece Walsh can find the form he had at the end of last year, it's hard to go past the Broncos, but I think the Panthers might be a little bit too clinical and a little bit too professional for them to kick off the year. So I'm going to tip the Penrith Panthers to take the Broncos down at home. The fourth match of the week is the Sharks versus the Titans on Saturday at Ocean Protect Stadium. So Cronulla's the home team. Titans, I think, are in for a really good year. They showed some great signs through the trials. I think under Hannay they're going to be much improved, and I think everything points to them maybe not making the 8 this year, but coming close and being contenders for it. But I think the Sharks will take this one at home. Such a settled side. They've been together for a number of years now. They don't have any huge injuries. You know, Ronaldo Mulitalo's not there, but Stone Street can definitely do a job. And they've got a powerful bench. It just feels like that's the biggest difference in this game, looking at the Sharks bench. Talakai, Kafusi, ULA, Puru in the trials looked fantastic. So I think they might just have a bit more punch off the bench than the Titans, and through the middle of the game I think is where they might take a lead. So I'm tipping the Sharks in that one. Then the next match is versus the Raiders. And I can't tip the Seagulls. I just can't bring myself to tip the Seagulls. They feel like a basket case. Watch them go out and prove me wrong, but I'm going to go with the Raiders. Even though Ricky's mixed it up a little bit on the at centre. No Timoko? That's surprising. I know Nicholson's getting almost eased back through New South Wales Cup this week, so they've got Noah Martin starting on one edge, but still a very strong forward pack. And even with a new halves pairing, I think I'm going to go the Raiders. I think they're going to have a little bit too much for the Seagulls, who look a little bit underwhelming this year. They might prove me wrong. If Tommy is, in top form, then obviously the Seagulls are a hard team to beat. But I think at this point in time, I'm definitely going with the Raiders. And then the last match of is the Dolphins versus the Rabbitohs at Suncorp Stadium. I'm a Dolphins fan, so my heart says Dolphins. My head says the Rabbitohs are going to really come ready to play. Wayne Bennett coming back to versus the Dolphins again. You've got a few battles going on here that I think will be really interesting. Kirby on, I believe, the left edge coming up against Whiten. Whiten, a great defensive player. Who will get the better of that battle, I wonder? And then the Dolphins halves, I think, are a step above the Rabbitohs. Cody Walker's great, but Ashton Ward is new. I saw him play some really good games last year, but I think Katoa, and the way he combines with Nikorima too, it's really good to see. Tom Gilbert, Tommy Flake, both back, both in the starting team. I think they'll make a huge difference to the Dolphins. No Brandon Smith for the Rabbitohs, so I think that also gives the Dolphins a little bit of leg up, even though they don't have Jeremy Marshall-King. The only thing is the Dolphins bench just looks a little bit odd to me. I'm guessing we're going to be trying to get some big minutes out of players like Gilbert, Lemuelu, Finay Fuiaki, Knowles, and even Keeley when he comes on. I imagine he's going to play in the middle. That's my guess. I'm going to tip the Dolphins. I think in a day game, at home, with the side they have and the danger they have across the park, I think they'll just be a little bit too good for the Rabbitohs. So I'm going to tip the Dolphins. So those are my tips for this week. Storm over Eels, Roosters over Warriors, Panthers over Broncos, the Sharks over the Titans, the Raiders over the Seagulls, and finally the Dolphins over the Rabbitohs. And similar to last week, we will spread the remaining $6 we have in our Sportsbet account after losing the first 20 at Vegas over the 6 games, so $10 each game. Let's see if we can win anything back, and let's hope we don't end up on $0 after the first week. I'll check in next week and we'll see how we go. Thanks, guys.